pretty new to objectivism too, but if my memory serves right, Rand didn't identify herself as a libertarian.
Mm-hmm.
But from what I've heard today, free to reason, free from coercion, free to choose sounds a lot similar to the moral principle of libertarianism and anarcho-capitalism. So
Yeah.
are there any like major differences or key differences?
Well, what is libertarianism, right? Because libertarianism is a very loose term, and it covers people who, I mean, there's the famous story, you know the One-Parliament Society?
Yep.
The One-Parliament Society is a society of classical liberals, libertarians, Hayek, Mises, Milton Friedman was there, and they used to get together, they still get together, and once every 2 years at a big conference, and they would, and one time, Ludwig von Mises got up during a meeting and says, "You're all a bunch of socialists," and he woke up. And why did he say that? Because in the room were a bunch of people who believed that a central bank was necessary, right? Hayek and Friedman, considered great libertarians. Ayn Rand would say, you can't believe in liberty and believe in a central bank. I mean, it's just not consistent, right? So, first of all, she's principled, right? So she's consistent. She's for free markets and everything that entails, right? True freedom, true protection of individual rights, and everything that entails, without exceptions. And libertarians have people who want to dabble in economic regulations and economic controls and all kinds of stuff, all the way to anarchists who think, we don't need government at all, and we can just have private police forces or whatever, right? Which is, in my view, in Ayn Rand's view, completely nuts. Right? You can ask me about that if you want, but there's a video online of me debating this Polish Rothbardian economist who's an anarchist on this issue. But anarchy is incompatible with capitalism. Anarchy is incompatible with freedom. Anarchy is incompatible with liberty. It's basically a bloodbath. It's the mafia. So you've got a big tent, you call it libertarians. Some of them believe in anarchy, and therefore don't believe in capitalism, don't believe in freedom, in my view. You even have some communist anarchists, right? All the way to people who believe in a little bit of government intervention, right? And everything in between. And so what is libertarianism? I don't know. And then on top of that, Rand would say, look, the economics and the politics of it, that's important. But that's not what's really important. What's really important is the philosophy. What's really important is how you're going to guide your life, how you're going to live your life. And that's philosophy. And indeed, she argued that you can't justify the political system unless you first define how you live your life, how human beings are supposed to live. So what I tried to do very briefly today, right? Unless you understand that human beings are beings of reason, and they require, therefore, freedom to think, and that force is the enemy of thought, and that therefore you must extract force from society in order to allow them to reason, to think, and to produce, then the politics mean nothing. So what she said is the philosophy is what matters. But the libertarians don't agree with the philosophy, right? The libertarians want to be subjectivist, or they want to be religious, or they want to be Kantians, or they want to be Platonists. They want to be whatever the hell they want to be. And she said none of those philosophies that you all advocate for are consistent with actual freedom. So what's the point of having a political philosophy, if you will, if it's not grounded in an actual philosophy for living as an individual human being? And if the philosophy that you hold in terms of how individual human beings should live is incompatible with your political system, then there's going to be a clash and you're never going to get it. And most of them, if you read Hayek, he's so confused philosophically. He's so, I think, mixed up when it comes to his social ideas. He's a great economist, but when it comes to his ideas about life, he's conventional, he's just average. And therefore, he's not convincing when it comes to economics. Or when you think about Milton Friedman, who's a utilitarian at the end of the day. Well, the number of critiques of utilitarianism that philosophers have thrown, right, have presented, and they're all true. Utilitarianism is a flawed philosophy. So if you're going to build your whole system on utilitarianism, and utilitarianism is flawed, then nobody's going to buy your whole economic philosophy. You have to build this economic theory, political theory, on a proper foundation. And that, I think, is objectivism. That's what Rand thought was objectivism. So she said, unless you're willing to accept this philosophy, you know, we don't have much in common at the end of the day. Yeah, we kind of say similar things, but do we mean the same thing by it? Not always. As the fact that Milton Friedman believed in a central bank, or as, you know, these anarchists believe in competing, you know, military forces or competing police forces suggests. So she said, you know, as the contradiction that happens between, let's say, Christian religion and capitalism, which is, I think, inevitable. So that's the fundamental difference. Objectivism is a philosophy. Libertarianism is a unspecified, mixed up political theory that has a huge range in terms of what it is. And that's why I think people are moving to the term classical liberal. Because at the very least, classical liberal excludes the anarchists. Anarchists are not classical liberals. So they're trying to go backwards in order to resurrect some kind of smaller umbrella, right? Smaller affiliation that is more cohesive. But even there, what's the philosophy?
I wonder if I can ask you to capsulize. I know this is difficult. Can I ask you to capsulize your philosophy? What is Randism?
First of all, I do not call it Randism, and I don't like that name. I call it Objectivism.
All right.
Meaning a philosophy based on objective reality. Now let me explain it as briefly as I can. First, my philosophy is based on the concept that reality exists as an objective absolute. That man's mind, reason, is his means of perceiving it. And that man needs a rational morality. I am primarily the creator of a new code of morality which has so far been believed impossible, namely a morality not based on faith.
On faith?
Not on faith, not on arbitrary whim, not on emotion, not on arbitrary edict, mystical or social, but on reason. A morality which can be proved by means of logic, which can be demonstrated to be true and necessary.
How does objectivism differ from the philosophies that many of us have been exposed to in our youths? Philosophies based upon religions, theologians, dogmatists.
The very first difference, objectivism tells you that it is not right, it is not proper to man to take anything on faith. Religion is a matter of faith. You accept a religion emotionally or because you were born to it. You have not chosen it rationally. What objectivism will tell you is that reason, man's reason is his basic means of survival. That is the most important faculty which he has, and he has to guide his life and make his choices by means of his rational faculty. He has to make his own choices, but he has to know how to make them. It is immoral for him to act on his emotions, to be guided by the whim of the moment. That objectivism holds as very wrong, very immoral. And morality, in fact, consists of following your reason to the best of your ability. So that rationality is the basic virtue from which all the others proceed.
My morality is based on man's life as a standard of value. And since man's mind is his basic means of survival, I hold that if man wants to live on earth and to live as a human being, he has to hold reason as an absolute, by which I mean that he has to hold reason as his only guide to action, and that he must live by the independent judgment of his own mind, that his highest moral purpose is the achievement of his own happiness. and that he must not force other people, nor accept their right to force him, that each man must live as an end in himself and follow his own rational self-interest.
Tell me the value of selfishness.
Use another word, self-esteem. The value of selfishness is that you esteem yourself as a value, that you live according to your nature, which means by the judgment of your own mind, and you respect your own mind, you respect your own ability to do the right thing, therefore you respect the possibility of being a morally virtuous person, and you regard yourself as a value worth preserving. To make a success of yourself in any line of rational activity is a great virtue, and people will attack you for exercising your ability, for hard work, for consistency, for ambition, and they will want to make you feel guilty of it. Mm-hmm. That is the greatest evil, according to my philosophy.
And wait, say that again. The greatest evil, according to your philosophy, is to attack an individual because of virtue.
What I call it is to experience or act on hatred of the good for being the good. That is attacking people for their virtues, for their achievements, for anything they have which is a value, actually, not for their flaws and not for their evil. In fact, people who preach that are the ones who are mawkish about the evil people, the failures, the liars, the cheats. Everybody who is weak suddenly acquires some kind of value. But anyone who is a success has to be attacked for his success.
And look at how you have been attacked.
Oh, I know.
How you have been criticized. There are many people in this country, forgive me, in this world who think you're daft.
They don't. They want you to think that.